Good talking to you, big boy. I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah.
How rare was yesterday in the respect that Bob Stoops is showing total responsibility? How rare is the total responsibility that Bob Stoops is showing for the mistake he is owning now with the second punt? How rare is that since you have covered the Sooners?
Rare, but he did the same thing after the game. I mean, he flat out admitted that was his call. It's even rarer, I think, to say your special teams coach said, don't kick it again, and you did it anyway. But, you can't really hide from that one. No matter what, no matter what, it's going to be on you no matter what happens, so you may as well own it all yourself.
Before you get to your next question, Zach, better late than never.
Now, the Franchise OU Practice Report, sponsored by Soonersports.com on Oklahoma's new sound for sports, 107.7, The Franchise.
Very professional around here. John Shinn with us. Is there any specific outcome, John, other than just they win as an answer? Is there a type of win that you can foresee in this bowl game where the majority of the fans can say, okay, this season is not a failure?
No. I do not see one. I mean, they could go out there and win that game 77-0, and it would still be, okay, where was this in these 4 regular season games you lost? I don't think there's anything Trevor Knight can do to lock himself into being the starter for next year in this bowl game. There's just, you can win it, or you can lose it, but I don't think it has any bearing on next year. I don't think it has any bearing on anybody's job for next year.
It's the whole fool me twice thing with Trevor Knight, right? Because he can come out and throw for 400 against Clemson, and I don't think it's going to have near the shine that it did a year ago at this time.
No, well, I mean, my whole deal with Trevor Knight is all his averages are pretty much identical to next year, and that was the whole thing about this season. You were supposed to see this improvement over last season. There wasn't any improvement, and that's the deal with that quarterback job. You want the guy you think is at this spot and it's going to get better. And right now, Trevor Knight hasn't shown that I'm going to get better.
John Shinn with us on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline. How much of Trevor Knight's nod to start in this game is we're giving the job back to the incumbent, and how much of it is he's just better than Cody Thomas?
I think he's better than Cody Thomas. I mean, the deal that got me was that first play in overtime in that Oklahoma State game. Blake Bell's wide open. I mean, wide open for a touchdown. And Cody Thomas just didn't want to throw the ball. And, when you see plays like that, when it's drawn up for you to do a pretty specific thing, there's not a ton of reads, and you're still not ready to pull the trigger, that's all the sign I think coaches need that this guy's just not ready. And I think they're at that point with Cody Thomas.
John, 6 JUCO players, if I'm not mistaken, right, that Oklahoma signed? Is that right?
No, well,
there's 4. I think it's 4. I don't know. Anyways, I know they signed a JUCO wide receiver. Zach and I were laughing because of his Twitter handle. You remember that one, Zach?
Oh, yeah.
Can we even say that, what his Twitter handle is?
Well, Bob Stoops did on his Twitter account, didn't he?
Yeah, you'll have to check it out.
Thought so. Yeah, check out Bob Stoops' Twitter account.
But that was the one that caught my eye, John, because it was a wide receiver, and that's a position of need. I guess first question, is Jay Norville's job on the line, and what exactly do you expect to see from Oklahoma in recruiting to get better at that wide receiver position? Is there a certain type of wide receiver you expect them to go after at this point?
Well, D.D. Westbrook, the guy you guys are talking about, is by far and away the number 1 JUCO receiver in the country. In the country, he put up incredible numbers at Blinn College last year. Now he's more of he played in the slot at Blinn. I don't think OU wants to use him in the slot. It's just a situation where it showed this year when Sterling Shepard got hurt. They lacked a playmaker, and shape, or form in that passing game. If you're asking me if Jay Norville's job is in jeopardy, I would think it is. I mean, that receiving core, there's just no rationale for how they could be that thin at that spot when just one guy gets hurt, and then all of a sudden you could make a case that they may have had the worst receiving group in the Big 12 this year out of any school. And as much as OU's thrown the ball over the last, the previous 15 years, how you could get that thin is just beyond me. And then you look back over the last couple of years at how many really good receivers they had that weren't guys they originally recruited, when you're talking about guys like Jalen Saunders or, transfers that showed up or things like that. It's just, you can't understand how they can get that thin at that position.
John Shinn's with us from the Norman Transcript, our OU insider. Last night Andrew Gilman was on with David Garrett, and Andrew said he's been getting a lot of blowback from people on Twitter about why isn't the media tougher with Bob Stoops, and fans want answers. Why aren't you guys asking the right questions? And I guess kind of a two-part deal. How would you answer that question, number one? And number two, should people be asking Stoops, are there going to be changes made? And if not, do you feel like there is a proper time to ask that question?
The proper time to ask the question, are you going to make changes, is when the season is over. Now, in OU's case, if they make changes, it's not like there's nobody else that can force Stoops to make changes. He'll decide if he decides that they're making changes. The other deal is they probably won't come till after signing day in February. Now, the other deal is it's not like we can, throw Stoops in a chair and waterboard him until he says what fans want him to say either. I mean, it's
be great TV.
God,
you can't do it.
The theater of the mind of that just now was kind of epic.
Okay, enough with the water.
Yeah, I mean, all you can do is ask a question. He can answer it. The other thing people need to understand is, like, at a press conference like that, most of us who are asking the questions have 7 or 8 days worth of stories that we need to write off that thing. So you can sit there and try to get an answer to one question that he clearly doesn't want to answer, and basically mean you don't get anything else answered after that.
Or anybody else gets anything else answered.
Right. Or it's kind of, Hoove will do that, and Hoove does a great job, but who's there to write one story? He's there to write a column off that press conference, and that's it. Most of us there have, like in the case of that bowl game, we won't get to talk to Bob again until, I think, December 26th. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we need to ask about to fill a lot of copy up until then.
So with that being said, if the right time to ask is after the season, you don't think any decision is going to be made after the season. If there are coaches that are going to be out, do you think in his mind that decision has already been made? And is there anything that can be done to change it at this point?
I don't think anything can be done to change it. The last time he made major coaching changes, I think it was decided, by the time the season was over with, and you give them until signing day, maybe they pull in some recruits or things like that. In the case of receiver, that, they don't really, there doesn't seem to be any game-breaking guy on, and that may, in Norvell's case, it may affect Green Beckham, but I think what's going to affect Green Beckham more than anything is what are they saying from the NFL guys about your situation that caused you to leave Missouri, and how's that going to affect your draft stock? And I think that's the number one thing that could keep Green Beckham here next year. It's got nothing to do with the coaching staff. It's, if you put another year between this and you going in a draft, you could potentially make yourself multiple millions of dollars by doing that.
Just a real quick yes or no, because I know you're pressed for time, and we've probably kept you too long already. John Shinn with us here on 107.7 The Franchise. That not knowing whether you're going to go or not at this point is probably a sign that you are not going.
It's a good point. I don't know. I've been asking a bunch of guys about the NFL draft, and they all say, I haven't thought about it yet, which is a line of crap.
Not. Yeah, of course.
You guys start thinking about the NFL when you guys have been thinking about it since they were 16 years old.
Especially for Green Beckham, who's been suspended all year.
But, I mean, we haven't talked to him.
Ineligible.
I haven't asked him that. But it's the one thing in OU's case, he could tell them, I'm pretty sure I'm coming back. But he's getting ready to go back home and talk to some people who aren't affiliated with OU, and that's when things can change. So I think in OU's case, they know until that deadline passes January 15th, and Green Beckham hadn't put his name in yet, that they're not going to put all their chips into him being here next year.
We'll always have that Sugar Bowl, Zach. We'll always have that Sugar Bowl.
I hate that I didn't ask you a basketball question, but we'll leave it at that. We'll see you later.
All right.
All right.
You're the best, John.
All right, John.
See you.